Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Can I get a roll call, please?
Mrs. Cicchini.
Here.
Mrs. Deli is absent. Mrs. Simmons.
Here.
Mrs. Space. Here. Mrs. Malone.
Here.
Mrs. Reedy.
Here.
Mrs. O'Barry.
Here.
Mrs. Tortorella.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Will you please join me in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with this provision of the Act, the Sussex-Wantage Regional School District Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the school building and notice of said meeting sent to the New Jersey Herald and the Star Ledger.
The Sussex-Wantage Regional School District is a responsive, caring, child-centered community. Our mission is to educate each individual to become a confident, competent, lifelong learner and productive, responsible citizen by providing challenging opportunities in a safe environment through a partnership of families, schools, and communities.
Thank you, Mrs. Whitty. At this time, we will move on to the report of the Superintendent of Schools.
Thank you, and I'd like to invite Mrs. Tortorella up to recognize some of our retirees this year. I'm gonna go in ABC order, and I'm gonna try to not mess it up. So first up is Miss Janelle Calamanis. Mrs. Calamanis was a member of the Sussex-Wantage Regional School District for 35 years. In her years of service, Ms. Calamanis had the opportunity to share her passion for music with thousands of students, families, staff, and our community. Mrs. K developed relationships with individual students as well as groups of students and worked with many of them for consecutive years. She supported them as they became experts with their instruments, explored new instruments, and collectively performed all over the state. As Mrs. K worked to schedule her lessons and rehearse for performances, she established some wonderful relationships with many of her colleagues throughout the years. They described Mrs. K as patient, flexible, understanding, determined, smart, considerate, thoughtful, and kind. She became a staple of Sussex Middle School and taught students so much more than how to play an instrument. She instilled values and skills that many of her students took with them as they moved on from middle school. I would like to thank Mrs. K for all that she's done over the years and tell her how grateful we are for the impact she has had and shared her passion for music. Congratulations on your well-deserved retirement. We'd like to all of our retirees with a plaque that reads, "You have helped to shape the hearts and minds of so many. Thank you for your years of tireless dedication, love, and devotion toward the students, faculty, staff, and parents of Sussex-Wantage School." And in the procedures outlined by Dr. Zbicki, former superintendent, we have your first contract here.
Oh my gosh.
Congratulations. Do you want to say a few words? I don't want to put you on the spot.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the support I've gotten over the years through administration and also my colleagues. So thank you very much.
Next up is Mrs. Reese. Mrs. Reese began her career as a special education teacher in the Sussex-Wantage Regional School District. She had a great interest in ways in which students learn. Therefore, she completed her coursework to become a licensed learning disabilities teacher consultant, or an LDTC. While Mrs. Reese was a teacher to the core, she soared as a finite member of the child study team in the Wantage Elementary School. Ms. Reese demonstrated tremendous knowledge of special education law and always referred to the data to discuss student progress. Mrs. Reese was a stickler for documentation and solid, effective IEPs. While Ms. Reese advocated for the least restrictive environment, she modeled for the general education teachers best practices in order to follow through with mandates and differentiation of instruction. Additionally, Mrs. Reese was an excellent team member who could be relied upon. Dr. B and Ms. Tremont State, Ms. Reese is a lot of fun to work with as well. The three were a dream team to work with and work together, as they often finished each other's sentences and undoubtedly began to read each other's minds. They all worked together seamlessly as they delved into scheduling and programming to meet the needs of students at West. High expectations were consistently communicated to to all the students, teachers, and parents, and when conducting evaluations and teaching about the 3 prongs of eligibility in special education. It was not uncommon for Ms. Reese to leave work from West at 5 p.m. at night, well beyond contractual hours, because she honed an unwavering work ethic in which she conducted herself during all of her years in service to our community. Mrs. Reese is a professional advocate and most importantly a friend to all of West. We will greatly miss her contributions to the child study team and her love of teaching students how to read. We wish you well in your future endeavors, and we most definitely still would like you to complete evaluations when we need assistance. On a personal note, when I became principal of Wantage School, I was a young new guy. You know, you reflect on the notion of, hey, they just put me in charge of this. I'm gonna have to live up to this expectation. And it was about 5 minutes. It took about 5 minutes, and I was taking orders from Mrs. Reese for basically the duration of my time at Wantage School. So I personally appreciated working so closely with you. Thank you, congratulations.
Thank you, and it's been an honor and a privilege to work in Sussex-Wantage all these years. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity that I've had. And you'll all be seeing me because I will be here more frequently. Thank you.
Next up is Mrs. Tupert. Mrs. Rhodey Tupert was a member of the Sussex-Wantage Regional School District for 32 years. In her years of service, Mrs. Tupert demonstrated her dedication to all of her students along the way. Each year, she strived to teach them not only literary content, reading and writing skills, but about life skills, and character. This came from Mrs. Tupert's passion to help children become the best version of themselves they could be. She never settled and refused to allow any of her students to do so. Instead, she set high expectations and worked to support her students and their families in achieving them. As one might imagine, her students valued her approach and her dedication. She taught them that being a student can last a lifetime. Mrs. Tupert continues to be greatly missed by her students, their parents, and her colleagues. She should know the tremendous impact she had had on the lives of so many. Thank you. I'm surprised you're not at Disney World.
I've been there twice already.
There you go. Congratulations. You want to say a few words?
Thank you. Thank you for all your support over the years, and thank you to the community and for the opportunity to do my thing.
It was always a pleasure on my part.
Yes, that's my pleasure too. Yeah, and I'm going back to Disney World in September.
There you go. Last but not least is Ms. Sue Winfield. Ms. Winfield was a member of the Sussex-Wantage Regional School District for over 25 years. In her years of service, Mrs. Winfield proved herself to be competent, flexible, demonstrating her ability to handle a variety of situations with great judgment and professionalism. It has been evident year in and year out that Mrs. Winfield was an educator with a passion to make a change, to influence, and to educate all of her students, ensuring that each one of them understood the necessary math skill. When she was unable to do so on her first attempt, she tried another approach and continued trying until she was successful. This determination never left Mrs. Winfield and could be seen on a weekly, monthly, and yearly basis. She developed relationships with individual students and was a mentor to many teachers along the way. Many of the teachers with whom she has worked with over the years describe Mrs. Winfield as understanding, conscientious, intelligent, sympathetic, creative, and helpful. Mrs. Winfield was fully committed to her students and her craft every day she set foot in the building, and she will surely be missed by all. Congratulations on your retirement.
And it's been a pleasure. 26 years, it's been a pleasure. I'm gonna miss my kids, miss my colleagues, so I'm really grateful for the opportunity. Thank you.
The only thing else I would report out on is the front steps of Wantage School and the side steps that we were hopeful to get redone, and both been poured in concrete. The forms are off the front steps, so I think the only thing left to do with them will be the rail installation. The forms are still on the side entrances of the auditorium, so those will be pulled off in the next couple of days. So they're both, essentially, don't know, 80%, 90% completed, will be completed for the school year. And I don't have anything else. For the audience members, we always encourage and love when you stay for our board meetings. If you didn't want to stay for the duration of the meeting, now would be an opportune time to go out and enjoy yourself.
Enjoy your retirement, everyone.
Thank
you.
Congratulations.
Are you, panel?
Yeah.
Flute, so had to say.
So next up, we have a number of candidates for an open board seat.
Here we go. Sure. All right. So at this time, we're going to conduct our interviews to fill the Wantage vacancy. Just to kind of make it fair, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to pick a name out of the hat. Whoever's pulled out first, we'll do their interview first. We're just going to kindly ask the other two candidates to just step out of the room while they do their interview, and then we'll come grab you, the next person, okay? All right, so first one up. Who's gonna do? No sweat, I'm sweating. I'm sweating, everyone's sweating. Joseph is first. Do you want me to pick them all?
Yeah,
So you guys
let's
have
so
an
everybody
idea?
has an idea.
All right, so Joseph will be first. Second runner. We got Miss Leah Morocco, and then we'll do Mrs. Jenkins-Perconi third. So if Ms. Morocco and Ms. Jenkins-Perconi, if you guys could just step out and just hang out for a moment, and then we'll come grab you as we finish up here.
So you're fine, or you guys want me to?
Oh, come to the podium.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on up.
Spin that around.
Hey, I had to stand up there too at one point. It's Gucci, guys, it's all right. All right, so if you just wanna introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and
Yeah,
why
absolutely.
you wanna be a part of our board.
So Joseph Gaston. I live in Wantage with my wife now. As far as other community things that I've done, I am the middle school wrestling coach for the grade school team. And that's through the winter once a week. Reasons why I wanna be on the board is because I'm a big believer in service. I wanna make a difference, well, collectively, make a difference in our community. And just set a good example for some of the kids I know, some of the kids on that team look up to me and just show them that this is important, what you guys are doing, because you guys are ultimately helping shape the future. And then I guess lastly would just be taxes are a lot, so just kind of seeing one of the things I do agree with is education and seeing where those taxes are going, so just get a better understanding of that and seeing how the tax money is spent.
Is it okay if we ask you a couple questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Alright, so I'll just start off with one question I have. So could you support a board decision you did not vote in favor of? Why or why not?
Yes, if it's for the better of the children, even if I don't agree with it, if it's a mutual decision that we think it's what's best for the children, then yeah, I would get behind it.
Any of my colleagues here have any questions? Good.
So how would you handle conflicts of interest or disagreements with other board members?
I think just having a conversation with that person, understand where they're coming from, that helps you solve a lot of it. And as far as disagreements go, it is what it is. I might not always like everything happening, but that's why there's a board of us. It's not me making decisions, it's a collective group of individuals here who are trying to make our school a better place for children.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'll ask one.
Sure.
What motivates you to want to become a board member?
Ultimately, it's providing children with the best education because they are our future. So most kids are too young to understand what's happening, so just laying down the blueprint for them to make themselves better so they can learn and obviously help in the community and teachers as well.
Anything else?
Sure, I'll do it. How do you envision working with teachers, parents, and administrators to improve communication and collaboration within the school district?
Just being transparent about whatever it is we're doing, explaining what we're doing, why we're doing, and ultimately I just think the best interest of the board is always doing what's best for the children. So just open communication, being welcoming to anybody that needs to have a conversation, just explaining it to the best of my abilities. And obviously there's a whole board here, so if I'm not able to do that, I know I can always ask somebody else for help.
Anything else, guys? Cool.
Good, hallway?
One last question, you growing out the mullet or what?
I am.
Yeah,
Been
my
going for
man,
some
all right.
time now, yeah. It's good, right?
Mrs. Woody's gonna ask one more question, okay?
Okay, yes.
And then we'll skip. I know, she can't, but she's smart.
Once you get her on a roll.
Here.
Yep, go ahead.
If you were to be selected to be on the board, would you have a desire to continue being on the board
Yes,
more than the short term?
yeah. So obviously I'm new at this, I've never been on a BOE, but I would look to continue that.
If you're not selected, would you think about?
I'll be back.
I'll be back.
Like that. I'm done.
Okay. All right, Joe, we appreciate
All right.
that. You can have a
Thank you,
seat
guys.
and, who's next? Leah. Oh, I believe.
Do I?
You can hang out.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to answer any more questions.
Mr. Morocco.
Morocco. Yep, thank you. Welcome, welcome. Please step up to the podium. Okay. All right, so this is your time to introduce yourself. Tell us why you would like to be a part of the board.
Sure. My name is Leah Morocco. I've been a Wantage resident since 2019. I currently work at High Point Regional High School as the guidance secretary. I think that the reason that I wanted to do this is I have a perspective of being in a school. I have a background of being in a Sparta school district. So I kind of get the community side, I get the teacher, staff side, and I think that my experience would be beneficial.
We're gonna ask you a couple of questions, if that's okay?
Sure.
Okay, so I will start. So could you support a board decision you did not vote in favor of? Why or why not?
I support a board decision like that. It would have to depend on what the topic was. I believe that my opinion and my morals and beliefs should stay with me, and just because somebody else votes differently doesn't mean that I should.
Anybody else have any questions?
What motivated you to take a seat? If you were to take a seat?
I think that, like I said, my experience and my kind of desire to, I'm seeing the kids in the school district and what they've gone through, and I think that my morals and my beliefs and my experience can kind of help shape and contribute to the school district.
How do you envision working with teachers, parents, and administrators to improve communication, collaboration within the school district?
Lots of patience and grace, because I do it every day already.
Oh, no.
No, I was gonna ask them.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, then I'm gonna ask you.
Yep, go ahead.
How would you handle conflicts of interest or disagreements with other board members?
I think everybody's entitled to their own opinions. And I can voice my opinion and, I'm happy to hear other opinions, but, I'm not much on kind of forcing my beliefs onto others. Like we're all entitled.
And if you were selected tonight, would you want to continue on for a longer term?
I would.
And, I think we already know the answer to the next one, right? If you're not selected tonight, would you still like to run?
I will.
Anybody else? Alright, thank you. You can have a seat
Thank
with
you.
the rest of the public. Hello, hello. Please step up to the podium whenever you're ready. So whenever you're ready, just introduce yourself and just let us know why you'd like to be a part of the board.
Okay. I'm Deborah Jenkins Bocconi, and I have been teaching for over 38 years. I'm a lifelong educator. I have a passion for being with children since I worked in the nursery and during summer vacation Bible schools and my dad's church. I love being with kids. It's my grandmother, my mother, and my daughter are all teachers. It's in my blood, I guess, put it that way. When I retired, I wanted to be more a part of this community. I tried a few things. I did literacy New Jersey tutoring. I was a poll worker, which I enjoyed, but it's too long a day. If they would cut it in half, I would still be doing it. Library, I've been involved with the library, our local library. And I ran last fall with BOE and came in fourth. And I just heard this opening was available. So I just, with my background, I feel like I might be able to be a helpful voice to the BOE, the committee as it deals with its responsibilities and challenges. So I threw my hat in. That's why I'm here. And I appreciate you for your consideration.
Thank you. We're gonna ask you a couple questions, if that's okay? Could you support a board decision you did not vote in favor of? Why or why not?
Oh, yeah, because it's a quorum. And I know that we talk about things together. And if that's what the decision was, I would certainly accept
that. Yeah.
Miss Mia.
What attributes and behaviors are essential for school board members?
I think you have to really have an open mind to the different people's points of view, and really listen, and that's, I think, the key to any group that works together on any kind of difficult, especially if they're difficult decisions. And so yeah, I think listening and really thinking, not just saying something to say it, but to really add what you think deep down and what your experiences have been. I'm a a parent and a grandparent, and I think that piece, I try and look at it from a child's point of view, or administrator's kind of point of view. If these things are hard to understand always unless you've been in some of those shoes, and that's where I think I could listen and be actually understanding in the way that would be helpful to the group. But I think the number one thing that I feel is missing in a lot of groups and a lot of jobs is people not listening to each other. And that, I mean, I don't get to listen to you because you're always the question. So that, that's a piece that I think needs to be done well. And I think I can do that. And I can go along with understanding I didn't know everything about a subject. So that if you're talking about something that, even like business-wise, I might not have as much savvy about that as some of you. And I just feel like I would be a good team player on the board with a passion for supporting our students. I've been here a long time, but didn't teach here. And I'm always looking at what's going on, so I feel like that would be my major attribute, listening and learning from you all, and then helping make a good decision on whatever it is.
How do you envision working with teachers, parents, and administrators to improve communication and collaboration within the school district?
Would you repeat the beginning of that?
How do you envision working with the teachers, parents, and administrators to improve communication and collaboration within the district?
Yeah, that's something I would need to be involved to see how that happens already. And maybe I'd have an idea about what could be done. I know one thing I've already wondered about, and I was told when I was running, was you can't do that when you're not on board already. To like ask teachers for suggestions, ask administrators for suggestions, and really reach out on some kind of regular basis. And maybe you do that already, since this is a piece I'm not sure what you do. But I think we need to listen as a board. We need to really listen to and try and get teachers and administrators to whether it's through some kind of questionnaire to find out, and those things change over time. So it would be like kind of on a cyclical basis. And it could be anonymous even if they didn't feel comfortable asking for it about something. But yeah, I think it's critical. I think it's really important.
How would you handle conflicts of interest or disagreements with other board members?
Well, I don't think any conflict. I think you can have different opinions, and you can state what you feel and why you feel it. And if someone else is not going to agree with it and they say their reasons, then you have to get a quorum. I mean, I don't know how else to you're not gonna. I don't want to be rude or impolite about someone else's very different opinion, because that's so common around the world. But I do think you need to chew a bone together with respect and vote, figure out what the quorum says. And if you need to, or if we feel it's not, we haven't had enough time, we need to shelve it and talk about it some more until we decide, look, that's enough. This is it, let's vote.
And if selected, would you want to continue for a longer term?
After this term, sure, yeah.
And if not selected, would you like to run?
I'd throw my hat in again, yeah. I don't like running. I'm not a politician of any variety. I know it's supposed to be non-partisan, but I'm not that comfortable going around and, running.
Right.
Any other questions? Thank you, everybody. So at this time, we're gonna move on to audience remarks. Members of the audience are invited to make brief comments about items on this agenda and matters of interest to the district. Are there any public comments today? Seeing none, we're gonna move on to the board secretary certification, please.
Pursuant to NJAC 6A23A-16.10C3, I certify that as of June 30th, 2024, no line item account has encumbrances and expenditures which in total exceed the line item appropriation in violation of NJAC 6A23A-16.10.
Thank you, Mrs. Riker. At this time, we'll move on to the approval of board minutes for June 27th, 2024, regular and executive session. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Chikini?
Yes.
Mrs. Space?
Yes.
Mrs. Simmons?
Yes.
Mrs. Malone?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Barry?
Yes.
Mrs. Tortorella?
Yes.
Minutes are approved.
Thank you. So at this time, we will be going into executive session for approximately 30 minutes. I know, we always say it's less and then we always go over, so today we're just gonna say it's gonna be 30, hopefully we'll be done sooner, okay? We will discuss our candidates and we will come back and let you know who it is, okay? So again, about 30 minutes and we'll see you in a little bit. Thank you. Oh, resolution.
Whereas pursuant to NJSA 10-4-12B, the Sussex-Wantage Regional Board of Education may exclude the public from that portion of a public meeting at which the board discusses any of the matters described at NJSA 10-4-12B 1-9. Now therefore be it resolved that the Sussex-Wantage Regional Board of Education shall enter into closed session to discuss personnel and legal matters. Now therefore be it further resolved by the Sussex-Wantage Regional Board of Education that pursuant to NJSA 10-4-13B, the time when and the circumstances under which the discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public is when the need for confidentiality no longer exists.
Sorry for rushing it, guys, we're just so excited here. Can I get a motion to go into executive session? Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, we just wanna go, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. All right, 30, see ya. Okay, we are back in public session. Thank you for waiting. I just wanna say to all the candidates, we couldn't have three better candidates tonight. Like, you guys are wonderful, said everything right. Thank you so much for coming. So at this time, can I get a nomination for the vacancy?
I nominate Leah Morocco.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mrs. Malone?
Yes.
Mrs. Space?
Yes.
Mrs. Chikini?
Yes.
Mrs. Simmons?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Barry?
Yes.
Mrs. Tortorella?
Yes.
Ms. Morocco is approved.
Thank you, guys.
Morocco.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to the presentation of agenda items, please.
Thank you. Under personnel, I'd like to move items 1 through 25.
Can I get a motion?
I'll motion.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Simmons? Yes. Mrs. Chikini?
Yes.
Mrs. Space?
Yes.
Mrs. Malone?
Abstaining from Heidi Riker and Stephanie Short on line 22. Yes, the rest.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Barry?
Yes.
Mrs. Tortorella?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Under policy, I'd like to move items 1 and 2.
Can I get a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Malone?
Yes.
Mrs. Space?
Yes.
Mrs. Chikini?
Yes.
Mrs. Simmons?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Barry?
Yes.
Mrs. Tortorella?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Under finance, I'd like to move items 1 through 25.
We're administratively pulling 4, 5, and 6 because I have not received the treasurer's report.
Thank you. Can I get a motion?
I'll motion.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Simmons? Yes. Mrs. O'Barry?
Yes.
Mrs. Chikini?
Yes.
Mrs. Space?
Yes.
Mrs. Malone?
Abstaining to number 15, yes, the rest.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
Mrs. Tortorella?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Under curriculum, I'd like to move item number 1.
Can I get a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Malone?
Yes.
Mrs. Space?
Yes.
Mrs. Chikini?
Yes.
Mrs. Simmons?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yeah.
Mrs. O'Barry?
Yes.
Mrs. Tortorella?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And moving over to the addendum. Under personnel, I'd like to move items 1 through 6.
Can I get a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. O'Barry?
Yes.
Mrs. Space?
Yes.
Mrs. Chikini?
Yes.
Mrs. Simmons?
Yes.
Mrs. Malone?
Abstaining from number 5, Leo Kinney, yes, the rest.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
And Mrs. Tortorella?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And under finance in the addendum, I'd like to move items 1 and 2.
Can I get a motion?
I'll motion.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Malone?
Yes.
Mrs. Chikini?
Yes.
Mrs. Simmons?
Yes.
Mrs. Space?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Barry?
Yes.
Mrs. Tortorella?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And under special services on the addendum, I'd like to move item number 1.
Can I get a, thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. O'Barry?
Yes.
Mrs. Malone?
Yes.
Mrs. Chikini?
Yes.
Mrs. Simmons?
Yes.
Mrs. Space?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
Mrs. Tortorella?
Yes.
Motion carries.
At this time, we will move on to unfinished business. Does anybody have any unfinished business they would like to discuss? Alright. So we'll move on to new business. Does anyone have any new business they would like to discuss?
I have new business.
Okay.
I would like to entertain the possibility, I know I'm open to
discussion for this, but moving this tangible packet to something more environmentally friendly?
So yeah, the history of the district, there was a period of time where it was all laptop based, right, digital? Is that what you're talking
Yeah, like a Kindle or an
The
iPad.
board was, they were given laptops the night of the meeting and the packets were sent, shared digitally.
And that's evolved. You used to have the hard copies, then it transitioned to the digital, then folks were like, nah, I want the hard copy back,
Really?
so, yeah.
Anybody else have any new business?
Okay, was that a question now?
Well.
I mean, it was a
Yeah,
thought
it was
for
a thought,
discussion,
discussion,
right?
it was
Not
open,
how it
yeah, if anybody
evolved,
else, I
right?
mean,
How many folks would be in
This
favor
just
of
seems
that?
crazy to me, like this just gonna still.
I never know what to do with them.
That's what I'm saying, like, that's crazy
Maybe a
wasteful.
happy medium, because I've always thought about this too. I like my papers too, right? But could we maybe do away with like
The bills.
Yeah.
this
Like
much
digital
of it?
copies of the
Mark
bills?
on.
Yeah.
Like for the
Like, can
financial
we just get
stuff?
a digital copy of that and then?
The board can direct us to do whatever you want. I mean, I'm all about saving the trees too.
I mean, yeah,
It's
there's
a
a lot
lot
of
of
trees
work,
there.
it's a lot of work to.
Yeah, then you
Right.
have to put all of that, and then like printing and all, like your time doing it.
I
and
do
that's
like
what-
having the minutes and the agenda.
But what about the agenda for the audience?
Yeah, that
That's
too.
still being
That's-
figured
that
Yeah,
would
we
be
still,
good.
we
But
still,
they don't
we
get all
still
this stuff,
provided
you know what I
that
mean?
even during the time.
But all this is on the computer also,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah,
can,
we could do away with the
Yeah.
financials, I guess you would call it,
we can
right?
initiate that for August?
Yes, so now do you want laptops available to view the stuff at the board meetings, or are you just gonna look at it at home and?
Everybody will use their phone, I'm sure.
I mean,
Except for
realistic.
me.
So you only want the agenda,
The minutes,
the minutes, what about the
Anything on the left side.
HIB and-
anything on the left-hand side,
Yeah, the hips for all your kids, you know.
anything on the left, no,
No?
they probably shouldn't do that, anything on the left-hand side.
A crop shop next door.
Okay, so you also want the policy and HIB. Yeah, not
Yeah.
financials,
Yeah,
the bills list, et cetera. Okay, so we can try that
Yeah,
next month, and then if
Yeah.
somebody isn't happy, but we can tweak it.
right, you okay with that, Danielle, right? I mean, you know.
Neato, good suggestion, I love that. Any other new business? Okay, so we will move on to audience remarks. Members of the audience are invited to make brief comments about items on this agenda and matters of interest to the district. Are there any public comments?
I have a question, it's just a brief one. Are preschool classrooms going over to Wantage School?
That's what we're trying to finalize.
Oh,
Two.
really?
Yeah.
That's the only option? Like, can they play on the playground over there? Can they?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things happening concurrently. We're seeking to get the stamp of approval from the state. County's kind of approved that process for 2 rooms to be located over there. We did a walkthrough. There's all kind of regulations about the size of the room, square footage, purchasing, purchase orders for furniture and supplies going through like that. Exploring with Mr. Petrowski, can we fence in? There are 2 areas I'm looking at to have that. Long term, hopefully I think it's just a temporary solution, but basically what it comes down to is you have this pool of people who wanna come into the pre-K program. I wanna say it's 80, 90, something like that. We talked about it with the board. We work with all those outside vendors. We're opening up another vendor. And then you still have this pool of people who wanna come here. We've got the funding for it. The idea was, can we accommodate them in some way? And that would be the way.
Can't you move like a grade level though? Like take all of 2nd and move them to West, or take all of 5th and move it to the middle school instead of
Yeah.
like?
So those are things that we've all brainstormed throughout the time. And it doesn't come without challenges. I'm happy to brief you on some of the challenges more extensively, but the gist of it is that to move a whole grade level to Wantage School, you have to move a whole grade level from Wantage School to middle school, right? And that's an idea I originally conceived. It also does some things with charter school with me. And the competition element that's there. But the most challenging part is providing all those groups with specials. So the specialists here are committed to the school, the logistics of accommodating all the kids here. And then I'd have to find time for specialists who already are shared between Lawrence and Wantage to come up here. So there's a lot of moving parts that
Right.
this was the most straightforward we could get it done and accommodate another approximately 30 kids. Not completely concrete finalized, but it's looking very, very good. And the idea was, you know, other things being equal, that's the best option we have to get folks in there. And I think most folks who want to be in that program will take advantage of it. And we're comparing it to, you know, it's a great idea to compare it to like all the classes that are at Lawrence School right now. And people, you know, some negative brainstorming, even of my own, was like, well, they're not going to be at the Lawrence School. But I'm comparing it to, you may be at this outside facility, you may be at that outside facility, and one of the schools within our campus. So,
Right.
Yeah, logistically, we've got control of the or more direct oversight of the kids.
Any other?
Great question. And if you want to talk about it in more detail, I can share some of those other things. Yeah, all things we thought about over time.
Any other public comments? Or questions? Okay, seeing none, we do not need an executive session. Okay, we do not need to go into our second executive session, so can I get a motion for adjournment?
I'll motion.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no.
We just wanted to say that it was really hard making a decision tonight, and everybody that didn't, you know, get nominated, that we would like you to, you know, continue to run and keep your head up. Everyone did a fantastic job.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Leary. We are adjourned, thank you.